Hello and welcome to this Unreal Engine tutorial where I'm going to be making a blueprint which allows you to control the sun in VR. So I'm in the VR template and I'm going to hit Control Spacebar to open my content browser, and just in a folder called Blueprints, I'm going to right click, make a new blueprint class, choose an actor. I'm going to call this Sun BP. Okay, open that up. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add our sun, which is going to be a directional light. So you can add that, and we're getting an error, and that's because we already have a directional light and we can only have one. So come to your outliner and just delete that directional light. You can now compile, and I'm now going to go to my event graph. Open up your event graph and you can delete the on actor begin overlap node, but we're going to use these two. I'm going to make a new variable, call this start rotation, and click on the boolean, and you're going to change the class to be a rotator. Then you can drag that on and set it. Don't get it, set it. Now drag out of event begin play, and we're then going to get our directional light. So drag that on. I'm going to put that over here. I'm going to get world rotation. Okay. And that plugs in to our world rotation. And that's done. Now we'll come down to event tick. So again, drag on our directional light. And here we're going to set the world rotation. Okay, you can plug that in there. And now we're going to get our start rotation. Now we need to get a rotator, but first you're going to break the rotator. So pull out of there and type in break rotator, and then pull out of the X and type in make rotator, and that can then go into our new rotation. Now we're going to make some new variables which are going to correspond to our widget interface that we're going to be making in a moment. And these variables are going to be V value, that's going to be the vertical value of the slider, change that to a float, and then H value, that'd be the horizontal slider, so we can change our pitch and our yaw. So out of pitch, type in add, and we're going to add that V value. So drag that on, get it, and plug that in there, and we're going to add that. And then Control D to duplicate. I'm going to do the same for our Y. So then get your H value, plug that in. This is almost done, but we need to change these values into degrees. So for the H, that's really easy. You just hold Control to drag out multiply by 180, and then plug that in there. For the V value, we're going to need to clamp it. So get map range clamped and plug that in there. This will make sense in a moment, but in our widget menu with the sliders, the values are going to be -1 and 1, but we're going to want to map these to be around 15 degrees, or sorry, -15 degrees and 15 degrees. And that is the sun blueprint done. So you can compile, save, and then hit Control Spacebar. And we're now going to open up our widget menu. So search for your widget menu and open that up. The first thing we're going to do is click on your vertical box, right click, and replace with a horizontal box. Okay, we're now going to get a new vertical box. I'm going to drag that on top of the horizontal box. We're then going to select all three of our buttons and we'll drag those inside the vertical box, because this now gives us two boxes for each of our sliders. Now get a size box. This will allow you to control the size of the slider. Drag one onto the horizontal box and one onto the vertical box. Now we'll actually get our sliders. So search slider, drag one into each of the size boxes. So you can see these now. Just with the vertical slider selected, come over here to orientation and change that to vertical. And come here to the values and change the min value to -1. And then on the top, change the name to V slider. Now the horizontal slider, we are going to also set the min value to -1. I'm going to change this one's name to H slider. Now with your size box selected, you can override the height of the horizontal box to around 30 and the width of the vertical box to again around 30. All right, compile, save. Now we head over to our graph. With your H slider selected, scroll down in the details to on value changed and click the plus. Do the same with the V slider. We're now going to get all actors of class and choose our Sun BP. Then out of actors, get a copy. Now I'm actually going to Control D to duplicate this because that's the same for the V slider. And then I'm going to right click and event construct, and again duplicate that down because that's going to be the same here. Okay, so for the sliders, drag out of get and set H value. So this is the value in our Sun blueprint. Plug that in there and the value in there. And then for our V slider, drag out and set V value. That can go in there and the value into the value. As for our event construct, here we're going to make sure that the values stay the same every time you open and close the widget. So we're going to get our V value and get our H value. And then just grab your H slider, drag that on and get it. Drag your V slider on and also get that. And then out of H slider, type in set value. Move that down to be beside the H value, plug that in there. Out of the V slider, again, set value, and plug your V value in. And then remember to connect it all together. All right, compile, save, and that should all be working now. You should be able to control the sun. But before you test it out, search for your sky sphere and delete that. And then we're going to grab our Sun BP, drag that into the scene. And if you get a shading error when you play this, all the shadows are kind of moving all around the screen. So we come to settings and go to project settings and search for forward shading. And just make sure that forward shading isn't ticked. But this should all be working now fine. But we need to add our stars. So to do that, in the same folder, I'm going to make a new material. I'm going to call this m_night sky. Open that up. And then open your content browser and search for t_sky and drag on one of the T-sky stars. Okay, I'm now going to hold M and click twice to get 2 multiply nodes, and then I'm going to hold S and click to make a parameter node. I'll call this opacity, and then hold S and click to make a second parameter node. I'll call this glow. Boop. So then I'm going to drag out of the texture sample, and I'm going to get a desaturation node, and that will go into the multiply, into the A, and the parameter will go into the B of the multiply. Then come down to blend mode and change this to translucent. You can now plug in your multiply node of the opacity into the opacity. As for the glow, I'll put the parameter into the B and then drag out of the texture sample, and that's going to go into base color. Just going to move these to the top. It's a bit messy, but it will do. I'm just going to change both these default values to 1. Alright, you can apply and save that now. Actually, don't forget to add a texture coordinate node, and we'll make the U tiling 8 and the V tiling 8 and plug that in like that. Okay, now apply, save. We're now going to head to our sun BP. In your components, add a static mesh. I'm going to call this SM_sky. With that selected, come down to static mesh, and from the drop down choose SM_sky. This will be our sky sphere. Now compile, save, and in the materials, first we need to open back up our content browser, locate this material, right click and create a material instance. We can then drag and drop that onto our material element. We can then head over to our event graph. Just make sure that that's definitely worked. It should look something like this. Then on our event graph, drag in your SM sky and then drag out and set scalar parameter value on materials. Okay, we're going to Control D to duplicate those, and in the parameter name we'll change this one to opacity and this one to glow. So these correspond to what we've named our parameters in the material. Get our V value, so drag that on, get it, and we'll do a bit of maths here. So these are going from -1 to 1, but we want it to go from 0 to 1. So first I'm going to add 1. So it's now going from 0 to 2. Then just divide by 2. You can plug that into your parameter value, duplicate it, and plug it in to the glow as well. Now just bring this up, and we'll connect it all together. It's a little bit messy, but that should be the functionality working fine. So we can now go test it out. And there you go, there are the stars. Thanks for watching. I hope that helped.